Parliament passes Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023, allowing cannabis cultivation for industrial and medicinal purposes.
Those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023 is deemed read the third time.
Stakeholders raised concerns over building collapses in a construction industry due to substandard materials.
And cement, for instance, has jumped from like 54 cities last year to about 95 cities now. I've noticed with so keen interest that the iron rods that are in the system, people are changing the high tensile and using the mild steel. People starting to use the mild steel for otherwise high tensile design. We're going to have some of these problems.
Kolebu Teaching Hospital calls for legal framework on organ donation as successful kidney transplant operations commence.
Patients, so that they do the testing and none of their available relatives is a match. So, there's no point in taking the transplantation because it will fail. But then if you have this enabling legislation, then this is something that will enable more transplantation cases.
Accra Metropolitan Assembly launches decongestion operation to enhance traffic and pedestrian flow in the central business district.
We would like to go to abroad because the place seems to look good. But it's human beings who stay there in abroad. And so we should change our way of doing things.
And later, June 2023, inflation rises slightly to 42.5%, driven by food and non-food items.
Year-on-year inflation for the month of June 2023 stood at 42.5%. Year-on-year inflation for the month of June 2023 stood at 42.5%. This rate of inflation that was recorded for the month of June 2023 signifies a 0.3 percentage point difference between the rate that was recorded for May 2023 and June 2023.
Once again, you're welcome to CNR Extra, which is live on CCTV. You can join us with your thoughts, submissions, and comments via WhatsApp line 0204447033. We're also streaming live on YouTube. You can join us there on CityTube. Jude Mensa-Dankani, welcome to the show. How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing super. I'm in high spirits.
You're in high spirits. Okay, on that high note, let's bring you the very first story. And let's take you to Parliament, where Parliament has passed the Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023, allowing cannabis cultivation for industrial and medicinal purposes.
Parliament has passed the Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023. The bill empowers the Ministry of Interior to grant a license for the cultivation of cannabis for industrial and medicinal purposes. The Supreme Court struck out provisions of the Narcotic Control Commission Act that allowed for the cultivation of certain kinds of cannabis for medicinal and industrial purposes, arguing that it was legislated in violation of Article 106 of the 1992 Constitution. Now, a review application filed by the Office of the Attorney General was, however, dismissed in a 5-4 decision. While debating on the amendment of the bill, the members of Parliament stressed the need for the cultivation of certain kinds of cannabis.
During the correction of votes and proceedings on Wednesday, the Member of Parliament for North Tongue, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, raised concerns on why the minority MPs were marked as absent without permission, despite the group's notice to the general public that it would be embarking on boycott whenever a member is being prosecuted at the court. Now, the group says this could have a debilitating effect on them, since the standing orders of Parliament state that a member of Parliament stands to lose his or her seat if he or she absents himself or herself for 15 sittings without permission from the Speaker and without any justifiable reasons to that effect.
if members absent themselves for a number of days, 15 sittings, your seat could be declared vacant by the Right Honourable Speaker. So my legitimate fear is that the way the records are being captured, it really could be inimical to our continuous membership of this House if we don't, Mr. Speaker, avert our minds to this. We have stated for the record that we are boycotting proceedings. Let that reflect. And yesterday the Honourable Patrick Boama saw us. We do come to Parliament. We do engage in other parliamentary duties. But we all know that in the parliamentary basket are available all kinds of tools to register dissent or to protest. You can boycott, you can stage a walkout, you can even absent yourself from voting. You can be here and decide to engage in a silent protest. They are all democratic tools available to members of parliament the world over. When we have exercised that democratic right, that constitutional right, we should not be punished for it. We should not be declared absent, for which, after a number of days, if care is not taken, somebody may just bring an application and say that we have crossed the threshold and that our seat should be declared vacant. So, Mr. Speaker, this is not a matter to be taken lightly. There are constitutional implications, and that is why I raised the matter, especially as we have more boycotts in the offing, seeing that our colleagues on the other side remain belligerent and adamant, and they want to continue with their witch hunting. In that spirit, we would have to continue with our protest.
We have two documents. One is the official report. The official report will definitely capture what the minority leader stated that day, that any time a colleague of yours is to attend court proceedings, you will solidarize with that colleague and you will be absent to participate with that colleague in the court proceedings. So the official report will capture that. Now, anytime you want to do so, if you want the permission in writing of the Speaker, you have to seek it. If you don't seek it and you don't have it, you will be recorded as absent. And that is without permission. I cannot come and use any verbal language or words to grant you permission. It must be in writing. And so I think the table office is right in saying that you've been absent without permission. That is what our rules say.
During proceedings on Wednesday, the minority members in Parliament stressed the need for the House to constitute a probe into the leaked tape, which suggests that government plans to remove the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Ekufu-Dampare, from office in a bid to rig the upcoming general elections.
When there's a leaked tape, when the leaked tape, there's issues around the leak, it has to do with the IGP, the sitting IGP, and the attempt to remove him, and the issues about 2024 election, and what must be done to make sure that a new IGP is put in place who will collude with a sitting government to get a certain outcome. That must concern this Parliament. It borders on the security and the stability of our country. And it's very important that the Minister is here, that this House, and I'm happy he's here, that this House want to know who are those involved, what is the authenticity of that leaked tape. We need to find out, and I think all I'm asking, Mr. Speaker, is that we ask the Minister of State, who is responsible for this sector, to look into the matter and to find out the truth in this matter and advise this House. Impressions should not be created that an appointment of a particular IGP of a real government determines the outcome of an election. It doesn't support it. There's nothing that supports it. And so it's important that if you are saying there's a tape, whether it should be investigated or not, Right Honourable Speaker, I have no problem with your bosom. But to go ahead and comment on it and create the impression that a particular IGP in place determines the outcome of election is wrong.
Because the identity of the persons are not known, it is only through such forensic thorough audit you will establish those behind it. And Mr. Speaker, we do so not just for the professional integrity of the IGP and to preserve and protect him and empower him to ensure that elections in this country, even tomorrow, are conducted in a manner. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure you have always taught us that the word free and fair have constitutional meaning. When the Constitution says that elections shall be conducted in a manner which is free. Free from what? Free from fear, free from intimidation, free from influence. It has a meaning. So free and then fair. So, Mr. Speaker, to preserve our democracy and to protect the professional integrity of the Inspector General of Police, and to appreciate what Dampari is doing in preserving this, we are requesting for a parliamentary inquiry into this matter.
I will urge the maker of the urgent statement to submit in writing the terms of the proposed statement which he just gave us notice. This will guide me to give the direction as to how the investigation or inquiry will be conducted by the appropriate committee of the House.
The House also passed the Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023 that empowers the Ministry of Interior to grant licenses for the cultivation of cannabis for industrial and medicinal purposes. The Supreme Court had earlier struck out provisions in the Narcotics Control Commission Act that allowed for the cultivation of certain kinds of cannabis for medicinal and industrial purposes, arguing that it was legislated in violation of Article 106 of the 1992 Constitution.
Right Honourable Speaker, I move that the Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023 be now read a third time.
The question is that those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried.
An act to amend the Narcotics Control Commission Act 2022, Act 1019, to insert Section 43 to empower the minister to grant a license for the cultivation of cannabis, which has not more than 0.3% THC content on dry weight basis for industrial purposes, for obtaining fiber or seed, or for medicinal purposes.
Honourable members, the Narcotics Control Commission Amendment Bill 2023 is deemed read the third time and passed.
Reporting from Parliament, my name is Ni Ayukwe Okine for City News.
So interesting one, the comments we are receiving, a lot of comments on the cannabis cultivation for the word is industrial and medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
And now if you are to enter into this business or you're supposed to cultivate it, you need license from the Ministry of Interior before such a thing can be done. What we understand is that what we have in the country currently is for recreational purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I listened to the City Breakfast Show today where the former Interior and Defense Committee Chair in Parliament and now Eastern Regional Minister Sete Champon explained the process as to how we've arrived here. And if you get him clearly, it's been long in coming, right? So this is something that started under the tenure of the late Professor Evans Atam Mills as president. Then through the Mahama administration, deliberations were ongoing up until what we see today or what we witnessed in Parliament yesterday. I mean, Philip, it's if you read around the industry and the potential it carries on economies, right, then you know that this is an area that it's worth pursuing, right, because of the potential economic implications it could have. Some MPs during the debate mentioned that some about $3 billion US dollars could be potentially realized from actively engaging in the growing
and the cultivation of
cultivation of it, even
cannabis,
though we are yet to really go through or peruse whatever study they did to come up with this number. But my concern with this basically is that in the whole process, right, or in the whole ecosystem, we are seen to be protecting the growers of this plant and those involved in the cultivation, because for far too long and very commonly in the country with other raw materials that we've had or been blessed with, like gold, like cocoa, those
like coffee and all that.
Exactly, those on the lower value chain, right, are those who are most exploited and they work the hardest, but there's very little to show for it. So it's great that we are going to have the Interior Ministry regulate and issue out licenses, right? But in all of this, I hope we are able to protect those who are involved in the lower chain, in that they are empowered, right, in the cultivation of it, whatever tools they need, whatever thing they need to make sure that it becomes a very fruitful or a very lucrative initiative.
So with what we need, the seeds we need for that of the industrial and the medicinal purpose, that is the cannabis, we don't have them in the country as of now, and those that has to be imported.
Yeah, I mean, so Nana Jima, who is the I think National Association of Hemp's president, was speaking on the City Breakfast Show, and he was explaining into details what would have to happen for us to start scaling up with regards to the cultivation. And he mentioned something to that effect. But what we understand very clearly from Parliament is that this has been approved for only industrial and medicinal purposes, not recreational yet, even though some lobbying of a sort is going on for
so making it clear, if they see you or if you are caught using it for recreational purposes, that is not right.
That is not right, and the law would have to take its course. But I mean, Philip, I think going forward, it's also important to say that research should lead these amendments we've seen, right? In that we should have a proper policy document to guide against abuse and to guide against misuse, in the sense that usually when some of these things happen, what happens is that because there's little education to back the amendment, you get instances where people, for want of not understanding what the law explicitly said on it, will start doing their own things, right? But when it is being led by research, it's being led by proper understanding of the issues and the industry, I believe very strongly that it will go a long way to help in terms of accruing revenue for the state, and in terms of, I mean, we could even get to a point where we can start importing some of these things. But I mean, on a face value, if you look at the potential benefits the cannabis sativa plant and its products could have, I mean, ranging from hair products, ranging from fabric industry, so many benefits you could talk about. So I think it's a great first step. It's going to be a long haul where in the coming days further engagements will be had, further deliberations will be had as to how to manage the process, right, such that we guard against abuse and misuse. But primarily, right, for me, I think the very first step is to be led by research, obviously, like I said, and also to be seen to be protecting the growers. I mean, prior to the amendments bill, anybody who was engaged in growing it of a sort at the time would have said to be engaged in an illegal activity. So I believe now is when the framework will be established through the Ministry of Interior, the Parliament Committee on Defense and Interior, and all other regulators that will come on board. And very importantly, there are other agencies that also have a role to play. Now that we understand that it's going to be used by the health, for health and medicinal purposes and industrial purposes, I think the Ministry of Health will also have some inputs to make in there. The Ghana Medical Association, all of those have to come together in drawing up a proper framework, right? So that we don't have a situation where in years to come we've seen that it's rather causing more harm than good. But all in all, I think it's good news for the community and those who have been growing it or who have the potential to grow it, right? Because then it brings a new frontier in terms of scaling up its cultivation and potentially raking in millions of cedis for the country.
That's a very detailed explanation you've given there. So that means that much or a lot more education must be done from the various stakeholders and ensure that it's really going to be used for the industrial and the medicinal purposes, and a particular cannabis or a particular type of cannabis is what is needed for this particular purpose. But let's move away from this story. And the new trial judge presiding over the hearing of the Opuni case, His Lordship Justice Abuaji Tando, who is the third to be assigned to the case, has adjourned the case to July 25. Let's bring you that insight.
A new trial judge presiding over the hearing of the Opuni case, His Lordship Justice Abuaji Tando, who is the third to be assigned the case, has adjourned the case to July 25th for continuation of the trial. Now, this comes after the Court of Appeal overturned the decision of Justice Anochi Jima, who recently took over the case not to adopt proceedings under the first judge to handle the case. Now, Justice Anochi Jima, however, was recently reassigned and the case given to a new judge, Justice Abuaji Tando. The parties, after making their first appearance before Justice Abuaji Tando since the development, informed him of the decision of the Court of Appeal. Now, lawyers for Opuni, however, served notice of their intention to further make an appeal to the Supreme Court. The judge adjourned the case to July 25th for the parties to request for the records of the ruling to pave way for the continuation of the case.
So the case has been adjourned to July 25, and details of is a three-member panel in a unanimous decision on June 3, or July 3 rather, held that the trial high court misdirected itself when it decided not to adopt the previous proceedings of the 6-year trial when a new judge took over the case. Justice Anoche was assigned to the case following the retirement of Justice Clemens Hunyanuga on April 4, 2023. Justice Anoche ruled that the trial would start afresh to enable them, among other things, to observe the demeanor of the witnesses. Mr. Samuel Kujo, the lead counsel for Dr. Opuni, said they were not satisfied with the decision and intended to appeal to the Supreme Court the verdict of the Court of Appeal. He, however, said, pending the hearing of the appeal, we are here for the direction from the court. And moving forward, a third judge has been brought onto the case, that is Justice Abuaji Tando, and now the case has been adjourned to July 25.
I mean, we saw this coming to an extent, right? And for me, early this month, when the Attorney General criticized the High Court decision to restart the trial, it changed a lot of perspective around what is going on. And I mean, if you understand the political inclination or the political nature of this case, then it gives a sense as to why there's been a lot of back and forth on this particular one. But I'm sure with a new judge coming in place and with the adjournment, it will be interesting what pans out in court on July 25th, I believe, where we'll get further clarity on how this is going to pan out.
Away from this story, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly has launched the congestion operation to enhance traffic and pedestrian flow in the Central Business District. Let's bring you that insight.
Wednesday, the Metropolitan Assembly, that's the AMA, initiated a decongestion operation aimed at eliminating congestion and improving the flow of vehicles and pedestrians in the Central Business District. The initiative is part of the Operation Clean Your Frontage campaign, which strives to transform Accra into one of the cleanest cities. The exercise is being carried out in collaboration with other sister assemblies.
Leading the effort, AMA Mayor Elizabeth Saki headed a team of officials and task force members to Kwame Nkrumah Circle for the decongestion exercise. The primary goal of this operation is to enhance the movement of vehicles and pedestrians while promoting cleanliness in the metropolis.
Since last year, before I came to office, we had the regional minister going out and then clearing places and asking them to clean their frontage, and we had the Operation Clean Your Frontage exercise. It's the same thing that we're doing now, because after that we've realized that still people have started misbehaving and being disrespectful to a lot of things, and the way, excuse my word, the attitudinal act of everybody is really not showing exactly the vision that we want to take on. And we're doing all these things because of the statement that the president did say, that he wants Accra to be one of the cleanest city in Africa. And upon that, we thought that it makes it wise for us to move, not only to say the 9 days wonder, but we want a permanent situation where everybody will understand. After all, this is our country. I know most people would love to go to abroad because the place seems to look good. But it's human beings who stay there in abroad. And so we should change our way of doing things.
During the exercise, the mayor engaged with several traders, expressing appreciation for their cleanliness and urging others to maintain cleanliness in their surroundings.
Eye nyamoye na obia tumi ye nyamoye ya mfe se Accra ebeyefe na niaye papa ka kire the cleanest city in Africa ye be mark one. It's supposed to be here to watch, so he doesn't even know about it. So I was asking him, assuming they brought bomb and placed it there, and he just comes and sits in there, and then the thing blasts, wouldn't he die? So he's supposed to be the security for the railway service. And so when you are done, go and look into that hole and capture everything. He's supposed to clean the place. Tomorrow we'll come to inspect.
Following the exercise, Mayor Saki spoke to the media and advised traders to reduce the display of goods and merchandise for sale. She emphasized that overcrowding contributes to congestion and incurs additional costs.
So what we're doing now is trying to explain issues to them so that they understand why they need to keep their places clean. And most of that is their office. And that's what I always tell them. They bring too much goods. You have to calculate and let them understand that if for a week the carrier will take 50 cedis out from you, calculate it, add it to the transportation, add it to the food that you take. So I've been advising them that we need to do same. Because if you bring a lot, I even always ask, how much do you sell a day? And in relation to the amount you are paying, if they don't calculate all these things, then definitely they will incur debts. So I've been pleading with them that they should try as much. So now we've tried to do the Mokola down to this place.
Furthermore, she emphasized that the task force would remain vigilant to ensure that traders do not revert to occupying the pavements.
What we've tried to do is we are placing our task force. Everybody will have somewhere to stand, but that wouldn't be a continuous thing, because when they get used to the system and get used to the people, definitely people will start to contaminate and corrupt them. So we're not going to do that, but we'll reschedule them anytime and we'll get a timetable for them.
So a lot of work must be done to ensure that Accra is clean. But that's a good work done by the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Not long ago, the regional minister, Henry Korte, had some officers with him, went to the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, cleared the place of, say, hawkers, individuals that are selling there that are not supposed to sell on the road. Did same in the Central Business District, went to Kaneshi, and the people came back again after some time. The question I keep asking myself is sustainability. It shouldn't be like a 9-day wonder. We show face, it's been done, and then we go back to relaxing. And the question I keep asking myself, the Operation Clean Your Frontage officers that were trained, about 1,000 of them, to go to different municipalities and metropolitan assemblies and all the district assemblies and all that to work and ensure that the right thing is done. Where are they now? Because I don't see them on the stretch.
I mean, Philip, you make a point as to how we take them off the streets, then after a week or two or a month, then they are back again. It's just because we fail to tackle the root cause of the problem, right? So for a lot of those people you see hawking on the street, it's a survival issue mainly that gets them.
They have
there.
to survive.
They have to survive one way or the other, and they feel that if they are being placed in a market, in some obscure place,
they will not make sales.
They will not make sales, and it's a livelihood thing, right? And it is a very serious thing, right? So the root cause of the problem has not been addressed. I've heard people say, why don't we rework our bus terminals, our market spaces, such that we can replan it so we put premium on creating new spaces where vendors can sell and meet or interface with a lot of passengers so it can boost sales. These are conversations that would have to be had another day. But Philip, going back to the report we just witnessed on TV, it's clear that very clear that the mayor, the office of the Metropolitan Assembly, the ministry or the Greater Accra Regional Ministry,
you see,
and other stakeholders are not in sync, and that is my observation from everything that's going on. Because I mean, if you recall the kind of vigor and the rigorous approach, right, the Minister of Accra,
the Greater Accra Regional,
I mean, when he started this and what we are seeing, it's clearly not the same, and it doesn't have the same enthusiasm, for want of a better word, right? And for me, it's a problem. I mean, we had cause to criticize the Greater Accra Regional Minister for slowing down. Later, we heard certain comments from people close to him saying that certain powerful people within government were not too happy with how the process was they were going about the process, right? And for me, I'm like, it's a very difficult position to be in, right? Because you have to sort of balance what the work that has to be done and government's popularity at the end of the day.
It's a very serious case because it demands the various stakeholders, the Ministry of Sanitation, the Ministry of Local Government, a lot of ministries, a lot of MCs, a lot of assemblies, detail, I don't know, but it looks like something is not right somewhere because it's being done. The next minute we go back again, we have to clear the place, and it's like
so Philip, I think the root cause has got to do with the political will to get it sorted. Done. And at the end of the day, there should be some form of it shouldn't be because we just want to do it, but it should be well thought through, research-led as to how to rework the system again so that people do not have to keep hawking on our streets, keep selling on our streets, sometimes blatantly refusing to adhere to any road use protocol. I mean, it's
I'll say good job to the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, and also the Greater Accra Regional Minister has noted that it's a battery, or the battery is charging.
But they say the charger head.
He's going to come back.
They say they can't find the charger
anyway,
head.
You are still watching CNR Extra here on City TV, still to come. Stakeholders raise concerns over building collapses in the construction industry due to substandard materials. Kindly stay with us. We'll be back with that story and more.
Yes, we are back. Wines of South Africa, Vossa, is back in Ghana for the biggest wine show ever. Date, Saturday 15th July at the Labadi Beach Hotel, Accra. Time, 7 p.m. sharp. Wines of South Africa Grand Tasting Event 2023 is proudly brought to you by Wines of South Africa and John Williams Consults Ghana. This event is sponsored by Ghana Export Promotion Authority and Best National Bank. Partners, South African High Commission, Accra, South African Airways, and Labadi Beach Hotel. Media partners, AmayalDebra.com, CTFM, CTTV, Voyage Afrique Magazine, and Ovation Magazine. Don't miss out on this extraordinary event by securing your tickets now at worcester2023.eventbrite.com or call 0553-271-032. Remember to come celebrate with Wines of South Africa, Saturday, 15th July 2023, 7 p.m. at Labadi Beach Hotel, Accra. Wines of South Africa, welcome to our world of discovery. Strictly by invitation and reserved for 18 years and above.
You're welcome back. Let's bring you some more stories. And residents of Kenyase in the Kwabri East municipality of the Ashanti region are now excited about the level of construction on the road that is happening in that area. Let's bring you that insert.
Residents of Kenyase in the Kwabri East municipality of the Ashanti region are raising concerns over ongoing road works in the area. The residents and motorists who use the Kenyase inner road say the contractor working on the project has left the site for months now after the drains were done. So the News' Ashanti regional correspondent Hafiz Tijani reports.
Roads in communities within the Kwabri East municipality are in their worst state, and the onset of rains is compounding the plight of road users. In 2022, concerns over deteriorating roads in the municipality became high as inhabitants, including traditional authorities, voiced out their concerns. Roads and Highways Minister Kwesi Amoakwata in January 2023 was in the area to assure residents of the government's commitment to fix the roads.
And I want to assure the chiefs and the people of this constituency that their year of roads has come. And from now onwards, between now and the close of the year, the chiefs and the people of this constituency will see the level of road improvement that is going to take place here. A very huge constituency, and we know the contribution of this constituency to our political fortunes. And President Akufo-Addo's government will not joke with the developmental needs of this constituency.
Construction works were started at Mampontin and Kenyase. Contractors at the time worked on the roads at Kenyase and the drains were constructed. Road users are complaining about delays in completing the project and say it is affecting daily activities.
Fast here P just say and quite risky pa amaye. Did say we first one because me can be cry say say basa o ma anye na so mo de ba ma contractor no so ya another sika no oba charge asha afirase e. Enti mfi say o ho na so mo anye kra dia fa so wo so sin so do mo nsa ba beka. Anye sa ye ma no sika na na e de e hyi.
Kwan na che. Esa na time bia o be fa so na aye o ayem hihye ne yi cause onye ayi kakra bia be ho na ho bibi o ka ho bibi na abu na ama eduru ba bia o mo yesi ente fe ne so ayi intimate so no cause spare pass bo aye den nti we dey sa kwanya ya ba na se be ya mesre se adwuma na o mo de o mo nsa ka o mo nye ne ntem na emo aye nyina.
The rains have washed away the sand on the edges of the drains, causing erosion on portions of the road. For drivers and other commuters, the nature of the road affects movement and they want efforts doubled up to complete the project.
Obey 4 months in the anti or Munkabi, who be so much more year quamble for baby. Meanwhile, the Asha and Ocras in the new. And today, says Scanning, ya teach me a Libya baby, and 1 year, oh, yeah, quietness, I went to me and you. Now, I go far baby before us out to our son. I say, who did any panatem cry? Maybe I shall say, but mean to me, name when you were any day, and for Momo Bra. And ya dear, if you said to me, boy, quite ready, yet I said it in fact. And ya dear to me, boy, quite ready, ya quite dear. Poto, pa, poto. Quite so quite easy, honey, a 2 Obama MPP. Your 2 gooms and quite about bar, and just will be any idea, but the young son are quite in your cry. The Quabe said, I am saying, about to a party, a bed, a to be.
When City News, however, contacted the construction firm, which declined to speak on record, an official attributed the delays to the difficulty in getting gravels for the next stage of the construction.
The current state of roads within the Kenyasi community for commuters and other motorists is a matter of concern to them. They want the government to expedite work to complete the roads within this area. Hafiz Tijani, City News, Kenyasi, Ashanti.
So that's the issue of roads in Kenyasi, and the issue is not peculiar to only Kenyasi. Other places too have bad roads. But one thing that cuts across is funding.
Philip, did you listen carefully to the roads minister in that interview? He said that it is a place that contributes very significantly to the party, that's the MPP's fortunes in general elections. Reason why the road is being taken very seriously. And I'm wondering to myself if
there is money,
if it's the most appropriate thing to say. And I'm now thinking that is it the reason why the roads in Ketu South, for instance, are bad, or the roads
people in Ketu South complaining? Have you seen any demonstration?
Okay, well, Teshi residents in Teshi are complaining, and we know how they vote there, or what the recent election looked like there. So that's the reason why the roads in Teshi is in a very deplorable state. I think the comments by the minister.
But even what the minister said that this is a stronghold.
When you become a minister or you become a president, you are no longer supposed to be seen as a party person. You are supposed to be seen as addressing the problems at the national level, which involves whether or not you the area or the residents in that particular area voted for you. So for me, I think it was correct. These are the things you leave to the constituency chairman and regional chairman to talk about. But Philip, I agree with you. I agree with you when you say there's a funding problem. I mean, it's quite obvious. We've heard it a lot from government officials. But watching this report again, it took my mind back to what that very famous press conference by Chairman Untumi, where he said that you have conglomerated here to plead with the president to address the problems they had in the Ashanti region, because clearly, I mean, the state and the level of development in the Ashanti region under this government, from what we hear and what we see in the news, is nothing to write home about. There's the Swami interchange, for instance.
Oh, some work have
I mean, it's stalled for a very long time,
we'll
right?
talk about that.
The Subin dreams. So, I mean, it
looks like you have a lot of filler. One day we will dedicate this show to roads and talk about it. But nonetheless, the minister has stated that 2023 is action year of roads. So I'm sure that by close of this year, all the various places
not only roads,
their share of the
many other development projects there.
Let's move away from this story and take you to Kolebu, where the Kolebu Teaching Hospital is calling for legal framework on organ donation as successful kidney transplant operations commence.
Now, the Kolebu Teaching Hospital is urging Parliament to provide a legal framework for organ donation and harvesting. Now, Kolebu Teaching Hospital has begun kidney transplantation with 2 successful surgeries performed in July. We have more on this report.
Organ transplant, especially kidney transplant, is a fairly new area within Ghana's healthcare system. Kolebu Teaching Hospital is taking the lead in this area of medicine, with the hospital performing 2 surgeries in July. Until the establishment of the transplantation program, patients were left with the option of traveling abroad or remain on dialysis at 400 Ghana cedis per session at least 3 times a week. Undergoing indefinite dialysis is a financial burden many cannot afford. According to Dr. Opoku Wariampoma, the CEO of Kolebu, a transplant is the best option for chronic kidney disease. Dr. Ampoma at a press briefing called for a legal framework to regulate organ donation and harvesting.
What we are having now is that somebody who relates the patient has to sacrifice 1 kidney for the patient. But if we pass enabling legislation that allows people to be able to say that, look, in the event of my death, you can harvest my kidney or my whatever organ, so that it will save another life. So that even in death, you become productive, or even in death, your death even helps somebody. Okay, that's what advanced societies have done. They've created that framework so that you can imagine that suddenly a large pool of organs becomes available for a lot of the patients on that. Because there are many of the patients, sometimes they come, they do the testing, and none of their available relatives is a match. So, there's no point in taking the transplantation because it will fail. But then if you have this enabling legislation, then this is something that will enable more transplantation cases to happen, so that then we can, show up the numbers and make sure that most of the patients are taken off dialysis. And
the Kolebu Kidney Transplantation Program is supported by the First Kai Group, which is helping patients pay the $21,000 per transplant. Executive Chairman of the group, Eric Sedi Kutoche, promised the company's support for the dialysis and transplantation program.
This is a dream come true. This is what I've been dreaming about. And it's a landmark for humanity. It's a landmark for Ghanaians. Because that is the only way we can have an exit plan for the dialysis. For the past 6 years, First Kai has been supporting the dialysis over a total cost of 13 billion Ghana cedis. And this is continuing every day. And the cost is increasing. And every patient go for 100 Ghana cedis. You could imagine someone on dialysis for almost 10 years, 15 years, and the total cost spent on these medical services.
So that's a very good initiative there from the First Kai Group. I am trying to support the donation and all that, and also the dialysis machines and all that is supposed to be used at the facility. I think that it's very right when this is done, so that it doesn't see that our facilities do not have the needed equipment to embark on these operations.
I mean, if you go back to the call by Dr. Opoku Wariampoma, who is the CEO of Kolebu, he's calling for a legal framework to manage this organ transplant when they come up, because you understand there are some faith groups that have their own beliefs against some of these things, right? So what does the law say when a health professional would have to recommend a process like that? So it's important that we have a proper, well understood and regulated legal framework, right, that explains into details how some of these things should happen. But Philip, I want to commend Dr. Opoku Wariampoma from his time as the National Reconstructive Plastic Burns and Surgery Unit at Kolebu till now. I mean, you can see that there are some really great innovations happening at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital. I quite recall when we had our Help a Christmas Child, you go there, a lot of the wards there had very nice things to say about him. So it's great to see that Kolebu, despite all its challenges, is making some great strides with regards to healthcare delivery. So this is really welcoming news. Very important. Welcoming news from Kolebu.
Let's move away from this story. And stakeholders in the construction industry, they are raising concerns over the building collapsing in the industry due to substandard materials.
Stakeholders in the construction industry have raised concerns regarding the recent spate of building collapses in the country. Some attribute these incidents to the use of cheap and substandard building materials. In this report filed by City News' Rachel Engman and read to you by one of our reporters, we explore key factors identified by these stakeholders.
Over the past 3 months, Ghana has witnessed at least 5 reported cases of collapsed buildings under construction, some of which resulted in the loss of lives. 3 incidents occurred in the Greater Accra region, 1 in the northern region, and 4 within a span of 2 weeks in May this year alone. Just recently, a 1-story building under construction collapsed in Amamfum Assemblies, a suburb of Amamfum in the Gas South municipality, claiming 2 lives and injuring 3 others. As this distressing trend continues, stakeholders in the construction industry have expressed their concerns. A brick molder refuted claims that they compromise on quality to save costs during mass production.
One, you have to consider the kind of sand that you want to use for the blocks. We have 3 types of sand. We have the smooth one for plastering, we have the medium for blocks, and the rough one also. But if you use a smooth one for the blocks, you won't get the quality that you want. But if you use the medium, because there's this kind of rough, it's mixed, so you get a quality. And if you want blocks, 1 cement bag, you should at least get about 30 blocks. That's for a quality block. But some people do even go to 40, 45. You see, so the more the blocks, the lower the quality. So that's also a problem. That's what I think they do most. But mixing with inferior goods, some may do, but most of the problem is what I'm telling you.
At a building materials outlet, a vendor revealed that the recurring collapses are primarily attributed to human behavior. He explained that despite the warnings, some stubborn customers insist on purchasing cheaper products.
In terms of the work they are going to do, so like for the concrete work, as for the cement, they request for the 42.5 R. And that's for the mortar work, they use 32.5 R. But let's say after recently, sometimes they came in for maybe the cheapest one because they say they don't have money. And so they just came in and asked for the lowest one. But some came in for the highest one in terms of the work they are going to do.
So when people come here to buy from you, to buy building materials from you, do you take them through probably, let's say, let them know the quality of the product?
I ask them the work they are going to do. So I can choose for them. So you can use this one, but they will decide for themselves. Yeah.
So when they decide that they prefer the cheaper ones or let's say the inferior ones, you just let them go?
You can't stop them because what do you call it? You describe everything to the person, but if you say, I don't have money, what will you do? Me too, I don't have money to buy for them, so I'll sell for them like that.
In an interview with City News, Foster Osai Akono, who is the president of the Ghana Institute of Architects, attributed the collapse of buildings to the negligence of certain regulatory bodies.
Where if those who are issuing the permit do not have the right capacities, it becomes increasingly difficult to understand exactly what document they have and what. So, for instance, you don't just issue drawings, but there are other requirements, which some of which are the soil investigation or the soil test, what we call geotechnical survey, and that will also inform the structural engineer who is designing the structural aspect of the project in terms of the foundation and what have you. The soil report will also let you know the soil bearing capacity, among others. So if those issuing the permit do not have the requisite capacity in terms of qualification and experience, then it becomes difficult for, they let things do.
So the usage of substandard materials have been seen to be the cause of the collapse of buildings. In that report, Engineer Mahama also spoke where he also made mention of the same issue that, the usage of substandard materials is what also causes. But yesterday, the Engineering Council and also the Ghana Standards Authority, they had a meeting to inaugurate a joint committee to look at these things. And at that particular meeting, the Engineering Council made mention of findings they have seen in an investigation they've conducted, also pointing to the same issue of substandard materials and also the engagement of non-professionals when it comes to putting up high-rise buildings. So I think it's something that has to be checked so that we can save ourselves from these casualties or these disasters that we've been recording every now and then.
I mean, I agree with you. Substandard materials is definitely a cause in what we've seen to become an increasing spate of building collapses. In May this year, in a spate of a week, about 4 different buildings collapsed, and that, for me, that was quite alarming. I mean, very serious things happened. There was one in Anakrum, there was one in Medina, and I think there was one somewhere in Wija. The fourth place, I don't easily recall. But I mean, Philip, there's also a problem of cheap labor, right? Yeah. So people would want to sidestep the system and sidestep professionals in getting some random people on the street and engage them in labor. So all of these things are part of the problem. I think this is where the Ghana Standard Authority come into play. I mean, I remember quite about 2-3 years ago, they launched the National Building Code program, and it was quite an elaborate launch, right, where a lot of things were said to really prevent these collapses and other problems associated with building. And I'm wondering what has become of that national building program that they undertook some time ago. But nonetheless, I think it's about time we review our approach again with regards to materials used, with regards to labor and adherence to the set standards and guidelines.
Okay, so with this particular issue, we hope that the various authorities will be up and doing. The Ghana Institution of Engineering has spoken about it, among others, trying to ensure that these incidences or these casualties do not happen again in parts of the country as we've seen. And finally, before we go, the inflation for the month of June 2023 increased marginally to 42.5% compared to 42.2% recorded in May 2023. According to the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kwabena Eni, the main drivers of the inflationary trend are food and non-food items, which account for 54.2% and 33.4% respectively. Anyway, that's how we end today's edition of CNR Extra here on City TV. My name is Philip Nicolati. I did this with Jude Mensah Duncan. Many thanks for your time as always, and keep watching City TV.